Hello, and yeah, we're gonna go another edition of Up the River. It sort of was due last week, but his suit screwed something up, so, let's do it again this week. And first off, I have to admit, what I wasn't gonna talk about last week, I'll still talk about it a little bit. The Amazon lawsuit. Now, what you're wondering what I'm talking about? One of the workers, remember that tornado outbreak late December? Last year? Well, a couple weeks ago? Well, one of the workers is actually suing Amazon because of the tornado that hit at their facility over in Edwardsville, Illinois, northeast of St. Louis. Ends up they didn't have adequate shelter, and they're claiming that because they didn't let him try to get better shelter at home, that pretty much we're looking at, wrongful death. Now, who knows if it's actually going to work? We'll see, I don't know how much I'd bet on it, but if that suit even gets to the discovery phase, that's going to be quite interesting. Because then, with discovery with big companies, stuff always happens to leak out. And one of the things that'll leak out is their emergency plan, or if they lacked one. And it'll also possibly come out what type of problems they had. Did they buy land so cheap that they couldn't put decent shelters on? We'll see. Just have to wait on that. And as for anything else, well, let's see what else is going on. I forgot to look up this afternoon during one of the breaks what the Minnesota women's pro soccer team is going to be, because they were supposed to announce the name at 10 o'clock today. You can always check that online. Look for MN Woso, at MN Woso. That's their Twitter handle. And, I know there was a choice, I think, between Foxfire, Aurora, and something else. I hope it was either Foxfires or Auroras, because Foxfire sort of reminds me a little bit of the one episode of Smurfs, and also I think it's one of the beasts in one of the Mario series. I think it was that blue flame thing. But also, when it comes to the Aurora, we don't see it as often here in Minnesota as they would say in Manitoba or Ontario or stuff, but still, we do get it once in a while, Aurora, you can do a lot with that when it comes to fan supporter groups and also uniform designs, so I would definitely have no problem with that. I'm not a shareholder of the team, so I could have bought in for $100, but decided not to. Such is life. Such are the breaks. But as for, let's see, what else is going on? Oh yeah, talking of soccer, Minnesota United let go of a couple players. They got rid of Mr. Chacon. He had potential, but unfortunately, Coach Heath may be good at a lot of things, but one of them isn't necessarily developing talent. He can pick talent. He can draft excellent. He draft is great. What he can do with them once he gets them, different story. At least several of their picks have worked out quite well. Of course, one of them that we let go in expansion draft a couple of years ago to Nashville, we got back in Abu Dunladi. His big keys are one, yeah, he's great with his speed. Ball control is a little questionable. I know it got better over at Nashville. Then again, it's probably because of a coaching staff that wanted to develop him. But the other problem is, let's face it, the other problem is, can he stay healthy? Because that was his big problem up here in Minnesota, is he blew out his knee twice and basically couldn't get much playing time. So, if he can stay healthy, he might actually be pretty good to put in at the wing somewhere. Not necessarily starter, but coming off the bench. Definitely could help, especially since we got rid of Mr. Reliable, number 13 over there. That was a stupid person to let go. And on top of that, that's all another stupid let go who's actually doing quite well is Mr. Ramirez. He's got, I think, like 9 goals for Aberdeen now, and he's actually doing well as a striker. I mean, I could tell when I first saw the team, it was like, keep him as a striker. Don't, get rid of the other guy. And, well, he was the one they got rid of, and it was stupid. They should have kept him. I don't care what the money would have been. He was actually quite good. I loved him there at that striker position. And he loved the Minnesota fans, too. So, I mean, it was mutual. When you have mutual love like that, it helps your marketing. You just can't get away with it. And that's for also for bad team decisions. But for bad team decisions, the good one was when we got rid of Francisco Calvo a couple of years ago. Offensively, he's not bad when you bring him up from the wing. The only problem? He's supposed to be a defenseman. And as a defenseman, he's tended to be more than a bit lazy at times, which is not good. It's sort of a cheap way to leave in some really, really bad goals and make your goaltender look really bad, even though, to be honest, he makes too much work for the goaltender. Now San Jose picked him up because Chicago decided that was enough. Of course, so then now we get to see him again in conference, except at least he's on the other side, so at least we know what to do. At least we know who to try to pick on, I'm glad for that. Other sports? Well, what can I say? The Packers are gone. Good riddance. I'm sure Minnesota loved that. Well, most of Minnesota. And also, it's good that Tom Brady's gone, because he's had so many Super Bowls and Super Bowl wins. It's like, we just need someone else. And that someone else is part of that, is basically both quarterbacks in the Kansas City Buffalo game. All the games last weekend were actually excellent. Excellent to watch. I even watched parts of all 4 games. Damn. I have to admit, I usually haven't watched as much football lately as I should, but the games actually were excellent. Now, the NFL overtime system still blows, but it is one of those things where, hopefully one of these days they actually fix it. We'll see what happens. And one other thing, when we keep on outdoor sports, I saw a little thread on Twitter that popped up last night and today. Basically, it was a couple of people starting to react about how that there seems to be a lot of musicians within meteorology, and former musicians and current musicians. And I'm one of them. I played trumpet in high school. We were part of a competition marching band at Nanticoke when the board still gave a damn about that. Now these days the board, they tried to kill them, and they basically did, which sucks. But you looked at all different people. Sax. We had you could see saxes in the thread. You could see flutes, clarinets. There are a few crazy drummers, and a couple of the people I saw who were drummers, I could see why. I don't know about anybody else, but when you have marching band or drum corps and drummers, the stereotype of animal from the Muppet Show, I hate to say it, it's true. They're nuts. They're really nuts. Nothing against them, but, that's a special kind of breed of nuts to be a drummer. Especially a really, really good drummer. Of course, you want that nutty drummer on your squad, but, just be sure to know what you're getting into. But another reason why I bring that up is because part of the NWA conferences this week. Well, not NWA, AMS, sorry. NWA is in August. We're talking AMS, the American Meteorological Society. First off, congrats to Paul Douglas. I already said that on on Twitter, but he's now an AMS fellow, which is awesome, you know. I mean, he's been ambassador for weather from the days when he was on WNEP, when he pretty much ruled the airwaves here in the Twin Cities. And you also, I mean, also they're talking about stuff, everything from research to, they are talking still about that warn on forecast stuff, which, to be bluntly honest, idea is great. Execution, that's going to be a little questionable whether they can actually pull that off. If they can, it'll be great. I mean, publicly, I think a lot of the Mets that went through the test bed, apparently they got some of their messaging got through, so I think we'll be able to have some good examples for that. But when it comes to people like the safety personnel over at places like where I work at Renewal by Anderson, I mean, let's put it this way. First off, I mean, at least the safety people are a lot better off when it comes to weather warnings and weather advice. Cause let's face it, it is me that's helping them out with that. I know some people snicker, but you know, hey, they actually have awareness about it. They actually are keeping an eye on it, and they have actually done stuff for the plant. Now, the rest of Anderson, I don't know what they're doing. We'll see what comes off with that. You know, I mean, they might have something, they might not. But when it comes to when it comes to the part with this new warning system, with the warn on forecast, where it basically updates the warning every 2 to 4 minutes and also does probabilistic warnings instead of just pure boxes like we're used to now and here in the U.S. One of the big problems, I mean, let's face it, one of the big problems we'll have is a lot of the meteorological community really hasn't reached out to those safety people as much as they should. I've tried to get them into test bed, you know, for a plant to at least see what they're looking at, trying to give our guys some idea, you know, at least, and I can tell you right now, at least within Anderson, at least the safety people in my plant are probably more versed than anybody else on this. Now, I don't know the situation in the other plants. I'm hoping Bayport is pretty good, you know. It seems like it, but I'm not totally sure. I'm hoping. As for the locations, like say in the Metroplex in Dallas, we also have a factory over near Phoenix, one in Dubuque, one west of London, Ontario, and I think something up in Quebec up by Trois-Rivières, but I'm not totally sure about that. But, you know, it is one of those type of deals where, you know, weather safety is important, not only for the people in the trucks loading and unloading everything, but I mean at the plant itself. And that's why when I talked about the Amazon suit, that's going to be important. Because the big thing with Amazon is they don't have a safety plan. Our plant at least has a plan. Now, how it'll work with bathrooms that are pretty much inside like an ash block wall, they should hold up to, like, say, EF1, maybe low-end EF2. After that, I think we may be in trouble. But, you know, I mean, I'm not a structural engineer. I only try to play one at times when I'm building windows over a plant. But when it's, but I mean, at least we have some type of plan. I mean, I'm thinking if anything were to ever happen at the renewal plant here in Cottage Grove, that it's going to end up more the situation where it's not going to be like an Amazon type disaster, but it's going to be more like a Pella, Iowa type incident. For those who don't know, Pella, Iowa, that's the area that's the plant that got hit the same day as the duck boat back in 2018 went over with the severe thunderstorm. Pella, Iowa plant actually got hit with an EF2 tornado, which sucks. But they had excellent planning, they had excellent shelter. Even with guests there, yeah, they had some injuries, but no deaths. Yeah, they had some cleanup to do. I mean, I'm sure the insurance companies didn't like having to total up the cars and that building damage, but at least nobody was killed. So, you know, hey, if you can get away from an EF2 tornado with only some injuries, I'm saying you're doing pretty good. And that's what I'm thinking for the most part, since most tornadoes are like say EF0, EF0, EF1, and occasionally EF2s. I mean, it's one, that means I'm hoping that for what we have, we should be okay. I mean, we're a lot better than we were a couple years previous when I started work over there at Anderson. So we'll see how all this safety works out. And I know I'm gonna go a little scattered brain here, but we're gonna go back to safety a minute, because remember that musicians thing I talked about with all the different meds and everything? Well, first off, it has been proven through more than a few psychological and other studies, educational studies, that yes, students who are involved with music, anything from vocalists to piano, drums, yes, I'm including the crazy drummers, but also even clarinets, flutes, the big brass, even the keyboards in the pit. You're involved with some type of music one way or another. You actually end up being smarter in things like science and especially math type products, which is a really good, it actually does give a good indicator and gives a good reason why music programs should be staying open, not being shut down by all the school boards across the U.S. Everybody's saying math, science, and everything, but it's like music actually helps with the math part, so you might want to keep it. But one thing I did bring up with, at least in that thread that I talked about, when we're talking about severe weather, to link this all through. One thing I have a friend who's a director up in Pittston, and Adam, the director up there, he went for meteorology for 1 or 2 semesters, saw the math, and pretty much said, okay, that's it. Music helps with math, but multi-integral calculus, that's a different monster. Anybody who's seen that ugly stuff, you're either a real big geek or you really want to be in science that bad. So, but anyway, Adam still knows more about weather than I'd say most people in the public. But I know he's been worried, especially the last couple of years, especially, there is some stuff with climate change, but just the way the pattern's been, with practices and the games and stuff. Worry about lightning. And you're going to say, why lightning? Well, gotta remember, most of the people who are either holding instruments, which the vast majority of them have metal in them, which makes them a pretty good lightning rod in the middle of a big field. Or you also have the auxiliary, which, if lightning were to strike one of the rifles, that'd be a heck of a way to see a spinning firework. Not, they're not loaded or anything, but still, it would spin and cause problems. Or you can have, or you also have, like, say, in the pit. Pit instruments themselves, you can get a whalo from, for most of them, but more and more bands are doing the electrified thing on bringing speakers, synthesizers, electric guitars, stuff that was frowned upon on occasion, but now is being allowed more and more for some part. And because of that, well, you add any type of lightning and stuff to electrical systems, not only do you fry the systems, but you might fry the people operating the systems. That's not good. Fried people, even without a pandemic, is bad. But with the pandemic, even worse. So I asked them, what are they doing for, lightning safety and everything? And, it was a little dodgy because the school really didn't think about that too much. So I made a recommendation, because you can find them on Amazon. You can find some pretty decent portable lightning detectors, like stuff like that would be used like by lifeguards and everything at the beach. In the $20 to $40 range. I think a couple towards $50, but $20 to $40 would get you a decent one. Give you a decent range and everything. and also cancel out most of the electrical noise, so it's not as big a deal. But if he could have one of those with him for practice, or for even for the games or competitions, if you know there's a possibility of thunderstorms, you can you're still going to be watching no matter what. But if you have that lightning detector, but there is a safety range. Usually, these days, I mean, the NCAA, I think, has like an 8-mile radius. NASCAR's a 10-mile radius. Different leagues have different radiuses in which lightning within a vicinity stops an event. But with these detectors these days, they're a lot better than they used to be, and they can actually tell that range, which is a good thing, because you need, if you have a band, depending, small band and auxiliary, you're talking 30 to 40 members. If you're talking a larger one, could be calling upwards of 150. That's not including the people taking on and off the flags, but just, actual auxiliary and musicians. That takes some time to get them off the field. And especially for a competition type setting. Competition type setting, you also have multiple bands out there. So, I mean, you got to be able to get them in shelter too, plus get the fans in shelter. And if you could tell that lightning, is a certain distance, what you'll be able to do is say, okay, once it gets within this distance, like say if you can get if a band is currently in the middle of a show, towards the middle of the show, you can say, okay, after this band, we gotta pause everything. If another one hasn't started yet, you can tell them, hey, get your stuff off, get you off, let's get safe. For practices, you can take stuff inside, because, it's gonna take about 20 or 30 minutes to try to haul stuff in. Because rain is one thing, snow is one thing, but lightning, as I said, a different problem. But, you have that portable detector with you, and that way someone could actually go up, could actually, be able to keep track without having to have, like, say, radar scope with the lightning data all the time. It'll go off at whatever radius you set. Sorry, I'm on Jackson Street here. One of these days I wish they'd pave it from the hospital up towards the bridge, but yeah, I mean, you get that information, in portable, quick format that's easy to read, and you can get everybody safe, do what you need to do. I mean, since he knows how weather operates better than most, he understood it and said, yeah, okay. He found one, and then he also actually not only gave the word to, relayed the word to different directors who were in competition with him, because they do get together in these circuits. They get together, for rule stuff for the year and everything else, and even just to say hi. Because, when we're on the field, it's war, but when we're off the field, it's all friendly. I mean, remember, he's pitching them Nanticoke, so. But when it came to that, a lot of directors actually said, yeah, it's actually not a bad idea, and it's pretty cheap, so they could even get out of their pocket if they had to. So, I mean, that's a good thing. On top of that, Adam up at Pittston, he's actually got a pretty good rapport with the football coach there. Some people don't. Some people, with their high schools, some do. Nanticoke was a little bit questionable at times, I have to admit. But the coach, well, I hate to say it, Marenko was a bit of a blank. To insert $300,000 word here. But with his coach in Pittston, they even convinced him. It's like, yeah, you can do this stuff. They talk to each other. Yeah, I got the detector. It's like, you can actually do that? Yeah. So now apparently the Pittston School Board apparently sprung for one for several of the outdoor teams, for baseball and football as well, because, when you're having those sports, that would be good to know. Especially high school baseball, they still use the aluminum bats. So that's never a good thing, to hold a lightning rod. Football, you're not necessarily holding a lightning rod, but you are out in the middle of a field instead of being sheltered, so that still is a bit of a problem. And I mean, it's also part of the Weather Ready Nation type deal where, trying to keep people safe in as simple a way as possible. And when it comes to those type of sports, lightning is the biggest concern. So, there's a simple way to do it. Why not? And that's, I don't know if they'll discuss that too much at AMS. I don't think they did, but if they did, if they didn't, I even tossed it into that thread today because there was a lady who was a director. I think she was a lady, but they were a director for a band, and she said, I went into music after I sort of crapped out with the math on the weather, but she still is a weather geek, overall. So one of the things, I asked her, he's like, hey, have you and your other bands in your area, have you considered getting lightning detectors? Like, no, I'll mention it to them. Hey, get out the word. Be safe. Even if you're in the stands at a game, you have lightning coming in your way, you want to get out of the stands. If you're Ohio State, you want to be the guy that dots the I, but don't want to dot the I and then end up, like the Wile E. Coyote, with the lightning, with the strike pretty much taking you out. That'd be not a good way to start a football game. Now, Nittany Lion taking out the Buckeye, that's a different matter, but you don't want lightning taking out any band members. That's just not right. Or football team members, for that matter. So, last thing to mention here, there is a little bit of a get-together on Twitter this weekend, pretty much for not only me, even though it's focused for the pretty much post-AMS 2022 meeting crowd. It's a get-together called Drinking with Scientists. And yes, there's going to be a lot of weather people there, that's for sure. It's started by weather people, but if you happen to be like a psychiatrist, psychologist, if you happen to be a biologist, you happen to be a doctor, a nurse, you happen to be an astrophysicist, geologist, you want to join us along, definitely, why not? The more the merrier. Let's face it, this Omicron is just like all the other variations of COVID. It's a bastard. So, Saturday night, if you're not doing anything, other than watching some sports or something, or playing with your kids, join us for a little session of Drinking with Scientists. Look up, and how you get to it, what you want to do is basically on Twitter, look up the hashtag Drinking with Scientists. Join us. It's going to be, we're going to be using the Google messaging service, Google, service on that. So, it should work in all browsers as long as you got some type of semi-decent internet. So, if you're in science and you want to be involved, go for it, Hey, we'll be glad to see you. But until next time, I'm home. Have a good day. Bye.